Okay, this is, you got your list 32 and your list 33. We're gonna start with 32. We're gonna start with Stacy because she only has one bill on here and we don't want her to have to sit around for hours waiting for all the other bills. So we're gonna start with the Freedom to Read Act, House Bill 785, which is a cross file of Senate Bill 738. And Stacy, why don't you, we'll turn it to you on again, House Bill 785.
So House Bill 785, Freedom to Read Act. This bill establishes that it's the goal of the state that each library is operated in a manner that recognizing certain standards. As amended, this bill would be identical to the Senate cross-file. The House added in its version 3 additional standards for schools and for regular libraries regarding the use of library spaces. The one amendment that is in your packet that's offered by the chair strikes those additional changes to focus the bill on banned books and materials and not the use of library spaces.
Okay, any questions for Stacy on that modification amendment? Okay, got a motion moving the amendment from Senator Washington. Is there a second from Senator Lewis Young? Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of that amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? That amendment carries. We have the bill as amended in front of us. Stacy, anything else you want to just elaborate on the bill? Okay, we're going to do a roll call. I think this was not a unanimous vote the first time around. So we have House Bill 785 as amended in front of us. Lamoria, let's take a roll call on this.
All right, Senator Kagan.
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine.
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion.
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young.
Yeah.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks.
Yeah.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza.
No.
Senator Carozza, no. Senator Hester.
Yes.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington.
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonaire.
No.
Senator Simonaire, no. Senator Feldman.
Yes, that bill carries 8-3. We are number 2. We're second on a bill. Let's go up to the top of that list. House Bill 2022, where finance has already passed this bill and we're in the second spot. So let's just take that up next. And Dara, why don't you explain what the Senate Finance Committee sent us?
So it's House Bill 22, Agriculture Pollinator Habitat Plan Requirement for State Highway Administration. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 178, which passed this committee and the Senate unanimously. And as stated, the Finance Committee was the primary committee for this bill. The bill requires the State Highway Administration's Pollinator Habitat Plan to include policies and procedures regarding the use of pollinator habitat areas along state highways. In developing these policies and procedures, the administration must consider the Federal Highway Administration's publication on roadside best management practices that benefit pollinators. The administration must also track and evaluate federal programs that provide funding and apply for any funding that the administration determines appropriate and beneficial to pollinator habitats in the state. There are no amendments.
Okay, any questions? Again, we're in the 2 spot. Yes, Senator Guy.
Same as what we voted.
Yes, and this committee added an amendment to SB 178, which ensured that the bill didn't interfere with implementation of laws relating to weed control and other.
Okay, so it has it has noxious weed.
Yeah, provision.
Okay,
included,
thank you.
Any additional questions for Dara? Okay, seeing none, there's no amendments. Any motion? Motion favorable from Senator Brooks, second from Vice Chair Kagan. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed. Okay, so we did our job on House Bill 22 for the Finance Committee. Let's go down to House Bill 505, which I'm going to turn it to you, Alexis, which has been amended and narrowed to a point where some of the previous opposition is now no longer in opposition. So let's take on HB 505, and it's the cross file of Senate Bill 682 from Senator Hester.
House Bill 505, Electric Companies, Regional Transmission Organizations, Membership and Report, Utility Transparency and Accountability Act. I'll just kind of cover how it was presented as introduced to provide context for the changes.
The cross-file bill is introduced prohibited rate recovery for utilities, for lobbying, advertising, certain lodging and entertainment related expenses, required an itemized report to the Public Service Commission on those costs, and required an electric company to be a member of a regional transmission organization, as well as requiring a yearly submission of a yearly submission of a report on votes cast at PJM, the RTO. As amended in the House, all of those requirements are removed, and instead, a report is required to the Public Service Commission from each electric company on both votes cast at this RTO meeting. Additional amendments proffered by the chair, included in the amendment packet, require the yearly report to be conducted by electric companies that are already members of the RTO, and exempts municipal utilities from the reporting requirements.
Okay, so again, the bill now is really just and Senator Hester can sort of weigh in. At this point, it's just the voting provision, transparency provisions. All the other portions of the bill that were somewhat controversial are no longer in the bill. And we do have the utilities here. Several of them have indicated today that in the current posture, they're no longer opposed to this version of the bill as amended. Senator Hester, if you want to add anything to that.
I mean, I think that the transparency is really important. And I think we should move the bill as amended.
Okay. Any questions about, yes, Senator Carrozza?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Were the amendments made after the House vote?
Yes, these are amendments on the third reader version of the House bill, sponsored by the chair.
Right. So the House pared the original bill back, and then it's now in our possession. And now we're modifying it even further.
So the amendments we just spoke of are, okay, thank you.
Right. So so we do need to take up this amendment, which narrows this down to now just transparency, a requirement that there be disclosure of how folks are voting up at PJM, and that we had this last year, if you recall this issue. But this bill came in much broader in the House. They narrowed it down, but then we are trying to narrow it to a point now where, again, I think there's still transparency, but no longer opposition. So yes, Senator Gallion, sure.
So like all the oppositions now removed, like from Washington, are these gas companies and everything, or is it just from?
I heard from Pepco and BGE today. I can't say that everybody I'm aware of. I'm not sure who else. I don't recall who else even weighed in opposition other than those two. But that's where we're at. Senator Carrozza.
Is it the votes that are, I recall the discussion on our field trip and then a little bit in the hearing, are the votes at every level or are there just certain votes? I'm just trying to better understand.
Alexis, maybe you could help out. And I don't know if we have somebody in the audience who technically, I know we have PSC here. Ben,
So
if you want to just come up, maybe you could lend an assist about specifically.
So I know with the levels, some of them are already cast and some of them are already public. But as drafted, it's a report of any recorded vote cast by the company at these regional transmission organization meetings. So it's broad. Ben is, more than welcome to color that with any other level of specificity, but it is broadly these recorded meetings cast at each of the RTO
Meetings at that level, but I also thought there were other meetings that, so that's what I'm trying to understand, if it's at this level or if there's also other levels.
So Ben Baker at the Maryland Public Service Commission. So just to make sure I understand your question, are you trying to ask what are the various committee levels where they might be making votes? Or are you asking which ones might be impacted?
So I'm trying to understand, currently, there's certain votes that are already public. Under this bill, there would be now other votes that will now become public. And then does that include all the votes that they take at every level?
Got it. My understanding is this should require our utilities to disclose their votes at every level. Where like there's various meetings where there are public ones and there's private ones. My understanding is this bill will now require the private ones for our utilities. We can't force everyone, but our the organizations that are under our jurisdiction would have to start to disclose what they voted within those sessions.
Within the
With-
PJM,
Various working groups. PJM has a ton of them. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact
so
number.
every working group, at every level.
That's my understanding.
Okay, Vice Chair Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I
If
know
I-
you're a champion of transparency.
Transparency is a thing, and I really love this bill, and I believe in transparency for PJM. Senator Crozo, if I remember correctly from last year, the sponsor was talking about how there were some folks who voted one way and basically the equivalent of our subcommittee, and that was secret. And then when it was public and everybody was paying attention, then they would cast a different vote. And so there was a thought that if there was transparency as sunshine, there might be more consistency.
Let's go to the Senate sponsor and they want to add in here.
So the analogy that I made during the hearing is it's like, us in Triple E making our votes public here. And then they're public also on the floor. And so this bill would put it into the same posture where the subcommittees, where our utilities on the subcommittees have to report their votes in both places. And the idea is that there are currently 5 states where this bill is being introduced. And so, and hopefully eventually we'll get to all the states, having the similar transparency requirements of their utilities. Does that help?
Okay, any additional questions? Again, the bill as introduced in the House, I just want to tell you that, it had things in there, all kinds of, it was a super, super broad bill. And this bill, again, as I say, with these amendments, at least I can't speak for everybody, but at least VGE and PEPCO weighed in today in this narrower version. But, there's a lot of money at stake in some of these policy calls at PJM. And so having some disclosure about how our utilities are voting, makes some sense. So with that, is there a motion to move this narrowing amendment?
Move the chair's amendment.
Okay, Vice Chair Kagan moves favorable. Second from Senator Lewis Young. Okay, let's, these are big bills. From this point forward, we've got a lot of big issues. So we're going to do a roll call on this one so that there's no confusion. Just on the amendment. Yeah.
Second. Okay, Senator Kagan.
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine. Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion.
Yeah.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young.
Yes.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks.
Yeah.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza.
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester.
Yes.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington.
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simoneer.
Yes.
Senator Simoneer, yes. And Senator Feldman.
Yes, Bill, the amendment carries. So we've got HB 505 as amended in front of us. Any further discussion about the bill? Is there a motion on the bill as amended?
So moved.
Vice Chair Kagan's motion, second from Senator Lewis Young. Any discussion, further discussion? Senator Hester, okay. Okay, all in favor of HB 505 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, that bill carries unanimously. If I might add that we do have Senate Bill 682, which is the Hester cross file. We have to do some amendments to conform them, but can we maybe just take a vote to agree to also vote the identical bill, Senate cross file of 682? We'll have to conform it exactly, so they'll be identical. So all in favor of supporting or voting for that conforming set of amendments to match them. So this bill, Senate Bill 682, can go to the floor as well. Okay, on HB 397, which is the geothermal network bill, we want to take that up, but there's a fiscal note outstanding. So unfortunately, we do not have a fiscal note in hand, and therefore we have to hold the bill until the next voting session and hope that we will have a fiscal note. Yes. Yes, this is House Bill 397. And so that is where that is. Okay, let's just go down the list here because some of these bills, we had Senate bills we've already essentially moved. House Bill 497, Dara.
House Bill 497, hunting non-resident Sika deer stamp fee alteration. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 508 as it passed the Senate. The bill increases the fee for a non-resident Sika deer stamp from $25 to $200.
Or any amendments, or is this in the same
There are no
posture
amendments,
as the?
Same, it's the exact.
Okay, so this is the same posture as Senate Bill 508, which we have already passed out of the committee? Correct. Okay. Any questions? Yes, Senator Simoner.
Just try and look up real quick. What was the vote in the House? Did you?
97.
Okay.
Any other questions? Again,
Just
yeah,
one last one.
sure.
I'm trying to pull this up. It was testified on the floor that Virginia was more expensive. And the data I got from Virginia was it's less expensive to hunt, seek a deer. And with this bill, it's even gonna make it much less, which could drive people away. So for that, I'm gonna be voting against it.
Any additional questions, issues? Okay, so given the House vote and that dissenting observation from Senator Simoner, we'll do a roll call. Is there a motion favorable on the bill? Again, we did pass this bill previously, Senate Bill 508. Is there a motion favorable on this piece of legislation? Senator Vice Chair Kagan, favorable, Senator Brooks, second. Let's do a roll call on this one, given the split vote.
All right, Senator Kagan.
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine.
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion.
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young.
Yes.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks.
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza.
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester.
Yes.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington.
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. And Senator Simoner.
No.
Senator Simoner, yes. Senator Feldman.
Yes, that bill carries 9-2.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and I already had it. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
9-2.
I apologize. Senator
with two
Simoner.
dissenting votes. Okay, let's go down to 562, another bill that I believe we already passed the cross-file. House Bill 562.
House Bill 562, Special Chesapeake Bay and Coastal Sport Fishing License, Non-Residence License Fee. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 507 as it passed this committee in the Senate. The bill increases the license fee for a special Chesapeake Bay and Coastal Sport Fishing License for non-resident license applicants from $50 to $100. The previous vote was 9 votes to 2 for the Senate crossfall.
Okay. Any questions? Any discussion?
Favorable.
A favorable motion from the Vice Chair on House Bill 562. Second from Senator Brooks. Again, it was a 9-2 vote the last time, so let's do a roll call on House Bill 562.
All right, Senator Kagan.
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine.
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion.
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young.
Yeah.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks.
Yeah.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza.
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester.
Yeah.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington.
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simoner.
Yeah.
Senator Simoner, no. Senator Feldman.
Yes, that bill carries 9-2. Let's go down to House Bill 979, again, a bill that the cross-file already passed out of this committee.
House Bill 979, Agriculture, Invasive Plant Species Regulation, Biodiversity and Agriculture Protection Act. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 915, which passed unanimously out of this committee and out of the Senate, and alters the regulatory approach for controlling invasive plant species in the state. The bill alters the regulatory approach for controlling invasive plant species, repealing the existing 2-tiered regulatory approach, instead establishing a regulatory approach that generally involves assessments of non-native plant species by expert assessors to determine the invasiveness rank of each such species, the review of such assessments by the Invasive Plants Advisory Committee, the determination by the Secretary of Agriculture whether such species should be classified as prohibited invasive plants and included on a consolidated list of Maryland invasive plant species or on a watch list. All terrestrial plants classified by regulation before January 1st, 2024 as a Tier 1 invasive plant are to be classified as prohibited invasive plants. Terrestrial plants classified as Tier 2 prior to this date are to be assessed in accordance with the bill. The bill also allows the State Highway Administration to conduct certain prohibited activities for the purpose of controlling or disposing of a prohibited invasive plant along state highways without prior approval of the Secretary. There are no amendments to the bill.
What was the vote on the cross file? Just
It was unanimous.
okay, it was a unanimous vote on Senate bill.
In
Yeah,
the- In the Senate, not in
I'm
the
sorry.
House.
Yes.
okay, fine. Of this committee though passed Senate.
This
Yes,
bill is in the same posture we passed, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
correct, which passed unanimously. Okay, any further questions for Dara? Okay, is there a motion? Favorable from Senator Simon, second from Sir Augustine. All in favor of House Bill 979? Clean, raise your hand. All opposed, that bill carries unanimously. Let's go down to House Bill 1153. Delegate Lowe, and this is a cross file piece of legislation from Senator Hester.
So House Bill 1153, the cross file is included in voting list number 33, which is Senate Bill 956. Environment, water pollution control, protecting state waters from PFAS pollution, or protecting state waters from PFAS pollution act. This bill requires the Maryland Department of the Environment, in collaboration with publicly owned treatment works and specified significant industrial users in the state, to, by October 1st, 2024, identify the significant industrial users that currently and intentionally use PFAS chemicals. By June 1st, 2025, develop PFAS action levels for addressing PFAS contamination from industrial discharge for pre-treatment permits. And by September 1st, 2025, develop specified mitigation plans for addressing PFAS contamination from industrial discharge for pre-treatment permits. In addition, the department must, by January 1st, 2025, develop monitoring and testing protocols for significant industrial users in accordance with guidance from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And by December 1st, 2025, update the department's PFAS action plan with the progress made on the bill's requirements. The bill also establishes measurement, reporting, implementation, and PFAS storage and disposal requirements for specified significant industrial users. There is one amendment to this bill from Senator Hester. The amendment would remove disposal requirements for significant industrial users and would require MDE's update of the PFAS action plan to include an evaluation of disposal methods for PFAS chemicals. With this amendment, House Bill 1153 would mirror the reprint of Senate Bill 956, which you can find in your voting package for voting list number 33, starting on page 11 of that voting package.
Okay, Senator Hester, you have an amendment on this piece of legislation to match it to the bill on the other voting lists. What you want to add anything to what you heard?
Well, I just wanted to remind the committee that we took time to have that PFAS briefing. We have almost 70 different, water treatment plants where this is an issue. And, we were investing millions of dollars to treat the water so that we can drink it. A big source of these pollutants, these significant industrial users. And I think this is a really logical, first step. The deal with the amendment is that, the technology around PFAS treatment is changing so rapidly. We don't really want to legislate a disposal option until we know exactly what to do. And so this study will help. And so, with that, I would move the amendment.
A motion on the amendment. Is there just to get the discussion, is there a second? Second from Senator Augustine. Okay, on the amendment, Vice Chair Kagan, then we'll go to Senator Augustine.
Mr. Chair, question for the sponsor of the Senate bill and the amendment. The Maryland Department of the Environment and MACO, the Maryland Association of Counties, both were favorable with amendments. Does your amendment address either or both of their concerns? I haven't gotten into trying to compare them both.
So the way the bill came out of the House, it addressed all of MDE's concern. We basically wrote the bill, with them. In terms of this last amendment, I think everybody is on board.
Dynamite. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Augustine.
It's the same question, but a little bit more direct. Does this exempt the local government facilities now? Because that's what MACO asked for. And I'm okay if it doesn't, but I'm just trying to understand if we're doing that or not.
Okay. Can I have a second to
Of course.
check?
So I will say that under the bill, an industrial user does not include the federal, state, and local governments.
That's what I thought.
And so they did take care, that is no longer in.
Yeah.
So they did do the MACO amendment then. Yep.
And the same is true for a significant industrial user, just because they're separately defined terms with.
Okay, Senator Cardoza.
Were the amendments done after the House vote to address the
The-
Maco's concerns?
The amendments, the only amendments that were done after the House are the two which would remove. If you look at the voting package for voting list number 33. If you go to page, excuse me, page 16 of the packet. And starting on line 27, subsection F, paragraph 2, it would remove paragraph 2, saying that a significant industrial user may not dispose of PFAS chemicals in these manners. The requirement would just be that they dispose of the stored PFAS chemicals using safe disposal systems or technologies approved by the department. That's one change. The other change is on page 18 of the package. It's the final page of the bill, and it would add that in updating the MDE's MDE's PFAS action plan, that update include a evaluation of disposal methods for PFAS chemicals. As it came out of the House, it was just an update with the progress made on the requirements of the Act.
Any additional questions for Senator Hester or Dara? Yes, Senator
I
Gallion.
was just kind of going through some of the bill testimony. It looked like the Maryland Chamber of Commerce had a lot of concerns about how this lines up with standards that the EPA has, saying it's basically lower than that, and it'll create a lot of technical and economic burden for businesses, their words. So has any of that, have they been running any of this? Has any of that been addressed with them?
So I haven't specifically talked to that stakeholder that you mentioned. However, there was a significant, I mean, almost a complete rewrite of the bill that happened in the House. So I think, like, for example, I have spoken with Gore, and they are fine with the bill as amendment.
Any additional questions?
Can I just make one
Sure.
point
Yeah.
to that? I know, Senator, that looking at the written testimony from the Maryland Chamber of Commerce, they had mentioned the concerns about the 4 parts per trillion discharge limit. That language is struck from the bill now.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we have an amendment favorable in a second. Okay, again, some of these I just feel like we need a roll call on rather than a hand vote. So we have a favorable motion on the Hester amendment. That's all that's in front of us right now on this piece of legislation. Lemuria, we'll go around the horn.
All right. Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine?
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
Correct.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson?
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young?
Yeah.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Cardoza?
Yes.
Senator Cardoza, yes. Senator Hester?
Yes.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington?
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonair?
Yep.
Senator Simonair, yes. And Senator Feldman?
Yes, amendment carries. Senator Hester, we have bill as amended, House Bill 1153 as amended. Would you like to move it? Okay, we have a motion favorable. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Vice Chair Kagan. Discussion. Okay, we'll do another roll call on this one. House Bill 1153 as amended. And like we did with the other one, since this bill is also on the other packet, the cross file on voting list 33, if everybody's okay, this vote will count towards passage of not passage of Senate Bill 956, which is on the other list. So, Lemuria?
All right. Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine?
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
Yes.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson?
Yes.
Senator
much
Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young? Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Cardoza?
Yes.
Senator Cardoza, yes. Senator Hester?
Yes.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington?
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonair?
Yes.
Senator Simonair, yes. Senator Feldman?
Yes.
Senator Feldman.
So
yes.
that House Bill 1153 carries unanimously, and that also constitute an affirmative vote for Senate Bill 956 on the other list, which is an cross file. Okay, let's now turn to House Bill 864, the so-called Empower Bill. Alexis?
House Bill 864, energy efficiency and conservation plans. This bill requires certain electric and gas companies to develop and power programs for energy conservation, demand response, and beneficial electrification to meet greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals in support of our climate goals under Title II of the Environment Article. Requires full cost recovery of programs by January 1st, 2028, and elimination of costs and unamortized costs by December 31st, 2032. Cost recovery under the third reader bill of the House version is limited to the amount of the company's outstanding debt. The bill requires the adoption of plans by January 1st, 2025, and every subsequent 3 years thereafter for participating utilities. 80% of the greenhouse gas emissions reductions under the program are required to come from behind the meter programs, and these programs are authorized to include energy storage. The greenhouse gas reduction targets for the program cycles must be the greenhouse gas emissions equivalent of current energy savings targets under current law for participating electric companies. For gas companies, however, the plans are required to meet the greenhouse gas equivalent of gas savings targets established by the Public Service Commission for the 2021 through 2023 program cycle. DHCD plans for low-income individuals are required to be on a trajectory to achieve 0.9% reductions based on emissions in 2016. The bill also requires a yearly notice of greenhouse gas reductions, emissions reductions, charges, and benefits to customers. Requires the commission to submit a yearly report on programs, funding, and electricity demand. Requires a work group on empower and moderate income households to help them obtain the most effective assistance. And requires a study on whether the enactment of remedial measures to support minority and women-owned businesses is found constitutional. There are chair amendments to the third reader version of the House bill, sponsored, I think I may have mentioned it, sponsored by the chair. But they do two things. They exclude Chop Tank Electric Cooperative and a broader exclusion to exclude cooperatives that serve less than 75,000 individuals in the service territory. However, it requires a yearly report on energy efficiency efforts of the cooperative in the previous year. It also requires gas companies to meet the greenhouse gas equivalent of gas savings targets that were achieved instead of required or projected for the 2021 through 2023 program cycle.
Okay, before we do anything else, if we could get our PSC folks up here, I know there'll be questions, and I think it's important to incorporate Mr. Baker. Why don't you come up here? Let me just. Well, here, let me just kind of get things started, because I think, we had the bill hearing on Thursday. And so I think just a couple of the questions that came up, and I'm just maybe to refresh everybody's memory a little bit. This issue of this unamortized balance, okay, just, to reiterate for the committee, back in 2008, it was decided by the PSC that, and we had this whole thing about you only paying the minimum, and then you have this growing unamortized balance that has accumulated over time. So what is that unamortized balance exactly standing at today? Is it 700 million, 800 million?
Last we checked was 650 million. And that was as of the end of 2023. Okay.
And then I think you also testified that, and this is actually reflected in the fiscal note, that in the short run, there would be, I think this was your testimony, I just want to refresh my own memory, there was going to be a short-term bump up. And if you look at the fiscal note, they say it, but then it stabilizes. And then in the long run, obviously, because you're not paying the minimum, eventually this is going to get paid off. And it's a long-term savings for our ratepayers. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but that in a nutshell was your testimony?
Right. It will, the surcharge will, there's many drivers for it increasing, but one of the short-term drivers is the getting rid of the unamortized balance, which will then cease to exist around 2030 or 2031. Which point you would see a fall in the surcharge for that.
Okay, just nail this down a little bit.
Yeah.
The range of, I think you said it around, I thought you said it was like 2026 where things would flatten out.
Right, so around 2026, it will, that I would consider the peak, the highest, and then it will start to be flat, maybe come down a couple dollars.
Okay, what is the, just so we have a range, what will the peak be? You don't want any surprises here. before it starts to flatten out and then decrease? What is that range? You gave us a range.
I think it was, I was saying somewhere between $17 to $20.
Okay, and then it'll stabilize and then start to go down. Okay, just then also on this issue of rate of return, we had this testimony from about the unamortized balance, what the utilities have been making on that balance. Under this bill as amended, there's a different a modification in terms of that rate of return and what utilities. So just again, refresh the committee's memory a bit about under this bill as amended, that change from where things are currently to how it will work under this bill.
Right. So on the unpaid balance, the rate of return that would be applied to that would be after tax about 7%. Under the bill, as it stands today, would be the cost of debt, which ranges between 4 to 5%. And that's after tax. So that we typically gross up for tax.
And we do have an AG opinion that says that's constitutional. There was question even last year about that. Okay. I just want to get some of the basic stuff here on terms of ratepayer impacts and all that, but we're going to go to you, Senator Carrozza, next. And questions before we move any amendments. I just want to let's get the questions.
So I just want there were a couple of issues trying to refresh from the hearing, and I appreciate the amendments, although we might have some questions just to make sure we're up to speed. But I also, during the hearing, brought up issues about the flexibility that was requested by Pepco and Delmarva. And they have, I have some amendments to address the flexibility issues. But I literally just ordered those amendments prior to our bill hearings. So I just, from the standpoint, I don't know if we can talk today through these and then hold it for a vote tomorrow. But I literally don't have, I mean, we've ordered the amendments and I can send what we requested, which I think you or the staff may already have, but I'm just trying to put all the cards on the table because it was kind of fast and furious earlier this afternoon.
Okay, well, I think some of those amendments are incorporated in here. Some are not. Some I think align with the general position of the utilities on this very point that we were just discussing, which is the current system moving to a different system, which I think that the utilities are not too keen on. So, and I understand why that would be. So for now, let's just put all the questions on the table and let's see where we are. So Senator Hester, and then we'll go to Senator Simon-Air, and then we'll go to Vice Chair Kagan.
So I'm just curious why we're exempting Chop Tank. I mean, it seems like it's a pretty big deal, at least in the House. And so just wondering if we've talked to the House about this and
Sure.
what our rationale is.
I'll address it. First of all, since 2008, Chop Tank has not been part of this program. Okay, never been part of the program. In fact, the bill that came to us last year did not have Chop Tank in the program. They're small. I mean, in fact, in some of the other bills, we have actually, in this case, I think there was testimony from Chop Tank about, well, just relatively speaking, we're talking about a cooperative that's 57,000 folks. To lump them into a program that right now is, made up of major utilities, economies of scale come into play, and the ratepayer impacts on that small cooperative. It's a cooperative, it's owned by the members. Again, back in 2008, the decision was made. This made no sense for such a small player. That was revisited in 2017 in the Finance Committee, which I served on, and they reiterated that this is not in the same category as your BGEs and Pepcos. And another thing is when you talk about ratepayer impact, that particular cooperative, and Senator Carrozza can weigh in, serves a rural, in many cases, low income part of our state. And so and I think the testimony from Chop Tank could be as much as $200 to $400 a year extra on top of the next in terms of just sort of size, that 57,000, the next smallest utility, as I understand, is something like 250 or 300,000. And so, that's the rationale. customers that is. So I think put that all together, I think it's sound to keep something that's been in place since 2008, reiterated in 2017. And that's why that's incorporated into this amendments. And I think, and I'll just put this out there, I think Senator Carros asked Delegate Crosby if he'd, since last year when it was in the bill, had he ever had a conversation with Chop Tank at any point about bringing them back in for the first time ever? And I think his answer, Senator Carros, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he said no. So I'm just putting all that together, and that's kind of rationale, agree or disagree. Senator Simon Ayer, you next, and then we'll go to Senator Brooks, and then actually we'll go to Senator Augustine, then to Senator Brooks. Senator
Okay,
Simon Ayer.
just to get the facts. So in 2008, from what I understand, they delayed paying back the Empower, and we built up roughly a $650 million remaining balance. That's correct?
I don't want to, what we did is we basically said we're going to pay off, we spread it out over 5 years, and that process continued. So basically we pay off the 5th year and a new year is added.
So we have a rolling.
So it's
5
basically a
years.
rolling 5-year mortgage is how I describe it to people, is you just, we pay off something from 5 years ago, and this year's costs are now going to be spread over for the next 5.
And do we know how much interest we've paid since 2008?
Excuse me, I don't know the number of how much we've paid since 2008 in interest,
kind
but
of
the
ballpark?
idea, I don't want to ballpark that, but I think on like what we're doing now, like 7% on the 6, if we were to take 10% of the 650, we're looking at $65 million to bring that. So we're paying about $50 million a year in interest right now, give or take, to the utilities. And so that under the current decision, would end in 2031. We currently have a discussion going on where we might have PIMs, or performance incentive mechanisms, within Empower for the utilities, and that's actually allowed under this bill for them to possibly get some sort of return on their programs based off of performance. But that is, but as it's currently constructed, that's why I would ballpark it at about 50 to 60 million a year to the utility.
So if it's 50 or 60 million a year, and it's been roughly 16 years or so, so we're talking.
But it didn't, I guess I should, but it wasn't always like Empower has gotten more expensive over the years. I mean,
I'm just
yeah.
trying to get a ballpark. So at 50
Yeah.
million, I think that'd be roughly $800 million in interest plus the 650 million we owe now. Okay.
Right.
In this bill, is there still authority for the PSC to do the same thing again?
No, if the bill is passed, I missed the second amendment, so please forgive me, Chair, but assuming that the bill is passed, as came out of the House on the return, on the surcharge component. No, we would it basically codifies our standing order, which says we are going to shift to an expensing model. And because of that, for these charges, we would have to forever do an expensing model on these costs, which would basically be you recover the cost the same year you earn it. And the only flexibility we would have is allowing them to use a performance incentive mechanism to possibly get a return on that balance.
I would add that this idea that enough is enough with the minimum payments came from the Hogan PSC back in December. I mean, these were this was during the
Right.
Hogan administration, Public Service Commission, I think it was December 2022, said, okay, it's time for us to expense this. And that kind of led to where we are today a little bit, so that enough with the minimum payments on the credit card. Let's go to Senator Augustine, then Senator Brooks, and then Senator Hester.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Chair. Thanks everybody for this work that's been put into this. Just from my understanding, is this going to allow for you all to generate the definition of low income? Am I reading that right? Maybe I
It
should.
might, I would have to
counsel.
check. My apologies if I
Let me ask
didn't know the
counsel, not you.
language.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So towards the end of the bill, in the plans that the Department of Housing and Community Development creates, they do have to create that definition of low income and include that in a subsequent report.
Okay. And we're doing the same thing with this middle income that's in the study? it looked like?
Right. So that's a broader, provide recommendations on how to categorize this moderate income class.
Okay.
but not necessarily included in a plan specifically, drawn out or targeted rather.
Okay, and then the timeline is for most everything goes to 2026, and that's to complete the current, allow for the current
Cycle
to current cycle to complete.
exactly. And
basically.
there are mechanisms in the bill to allow the current cycle to run out
Right.
based off of what they submitted in August.
Right.
Unless there are some modifications that need to be made to
Right.
meet those targets. But then, assuming they don't have to submit any other updates to their plans, a new cycle would begin in 2027, a new
Okay.
3-year cycle.
Okay, thank you.
I would add that this committee last year, if you recall, we did pass a bill for the first time ever to establish firm targets.
Yep.
For our low income, low and moderate.
Well, I love that. I
Yeah.
love it, but I just, and
So-
it doesn't, we don't know what it is.
No, I hear you.
I mean, I do. I mean, I think it's great that it's there. I really do.
Right, so we do have targets that
Yep.
this rolls that bill in effect into this
Right.
bill, which I think was, for the first time we've ever done that. We're gonna go to Senator Hester, Senator Brooks, and then Senator Gallion. Or actually Senator Brooks first, Senator Hester, then Senator Gallion. Go on.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah. I guess granularly, I'm thinking about the impact this is gonna have on the ratepayers. So we're dealing with RMR, that the reliability, trying to get those electrons down here because of Brandon Shores. And also with this shift to an expensing model, that's gonna be an additional cost. So could you give me a ballpark of what you think for the average ratepayer, a homeowner, a ratepayer, what kind of increase in the monthly bill that's gonna
Is
generate?
this, I don't know enough about the RMR impacts, but for Empower, you're currently paying about $7 to $8 a month. So over the next 3 years, we're looking at bill increase. We're looking at the monthly increase of about $10 to $15 or $10 to $12.
$10 to $12. Okay,
Right.
all right, okay, all right, thanks, Chair.
But again, in the long run, this is all part of the expensing in order to pay off the long-term unamortized balance. And so as the fiscal note writer points out, in the long run, ratepayers should be making it out in a big way. There is one other part of the bill I think significant. 80% of the benefits, if you will, are behind the meter, meaning our residential folks are paying in and they will get the benefits of this program, something that's pretty significant. So that should also help ratepayers. So there are things in this bill, specifically long run benefits, short run benefits of the program, all directed to, minimizing ratepayer impact beyond like the 2-year bump up. So that's kind of the thinking. We're going to go to Senator Gallion next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize. I missed the initial hearing. I wasn't here that day, but just to follow up on Senator Brooks. So you're talking about the increase from a month initial bump up in the increase. So I'm assuming that's just talking about residential, correct?
Correct.
So what is the projected cost increase for commercial customers?
I don't have it off the top of my head. I can get it to you.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, that initial, I know we're talking about things will get better after this initial, but I mean, we got a lot of my constituents are struggling right now, paying bills with inflation and everything. So I'm worried, these costs seem like they always get passed down to our constituents. So if you could give me some kind of number on that, it would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, any other questions on the table in terms of this piece of legislation or any of the amendments? Okay, we've got Senator Hester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe during the hearing last week or the week before, I asked the question about how we avoid getting into this problem again. I mean, I still can't wrap my head around how this mistake, was made. And so you mentioned that we're going to be expensing. Is that just for this program? Is that like PSC across the board? Like what kind of assurance can you give us that similar, poor financial accounting decisions aren't going to be made in the future?
So this is just for this program. I would say this was unique in the fact that we don't typically, if you look, typically you're not amortizing what I would call incentives given to somebody. Typically, the only utility cost that's getting amortized over time is capital. It is the physical assets that are going into the ground. So this one was a bit unique, and that was really driven by the bill impacts. And it was kind of when the commissions, any commission, when they're looking at this, they're looking at a more myriad of factors, and one of them is what's this going to do to my average customer's bill. They're also thinking about, is this a good approach? I don't think anyone was really at that time thinking about what is the longevity of Empower. At that time, they were just trying to stand up a new program, and it was a cost recovery mechanism that was put in place as a way of standing it up, and it just kept rolling. And then sometime between 2015 and 2020, those commissions were like, it's time to figure out how to get off of this. And it took till 2022 for the commission to finally put their foot down and say, we're done. But in terms of assurances, I think it's really, the commission has their general guidance in terms of the public good, balancing ratepayer interests. And when you think about all the things that people basically argue and testify in front of the commission on, I mean, this is what your appointed officials are basically tasked with having to balance in terms of one of their primary aspects of their job. So I guess if as far as it goes, I think I can't give you any better assurances than on this project it is now codified, but in future ones, arguably that they would not want to get themselves back into this based off the precedent that has now been established in our previous orders. So, because the commissions don't usually go against their precedent, like when they make a decision, they consider why they made that in future orders. And so that would consider that again going forward for these kinds of programs.
One other thing I might point out, just looking at some of the data from 2008 till now, it's actually, this program saved $13 billion in overall energy savings for our ratepayers. I mean, this has been a super successful program, which is why later it actually got upticked. And so, there's a lot in this bill. I know there's a focus on component parts, but the program broadly has been very, very, very successful. One of the more successful energy efficiency programs in the nation. Senator Hester, you had another question?
I mean, I'm not really satisfied with the answer I just received. Like, I understand it's about this program and the program saved a lot of money. I think we should demand a little more transparency from the PSC. I mean, in 5 years, lots of us won't be here. Like, how do we make sure this isn't going to happen again? And I think I'd really like a better solution to that answer.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, does anybody want to move an amendment just to have a conversation, elongated conversation, or do people feel they need more information? Correct. Okay, we got a motion on the amendment, second discussion just on the amendment. Okay, let's take a roll call, get a pulse of this committee on all these issues.
All right, Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine?
Yes.
Just on the amendment.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
Yes.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young?
Yes.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza?
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester?
Yes.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington?
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonaire?
Yes.
Senator Simonaire, yes. And Senator Feldman?
Yes, the amendment carries. We now have an amendment that's carried. The bill as amended is in front of us. Do we need some discussion? Do people know how they're going to vote? Do people need a great deal more information? Yes, let's open up for some discussion here. Senator Gallion.
Amendments that Senator Crow's working on. I mean, we have to vote this today, or kind of wait until she comes with some more amendments?
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, do you have some sense of the nature of the amendments? If it's simply parroting, what all the other utilities have already presented at testimony and proffered at different times, that's one thing. If it's something new and different.
I don't know what's been brought to you prior, but the First Amendment would provides the Public Service Commission with flexibility to utilize the most affordable mechanism to fund the Empower program. It removes the retroactive taking of compensation to companies for programs that have been previously initiated. The second amendment would ensure the appropriate ratepayer classes are covered under the bill. As drafted, ratepayer classes such as streetlights and non-dwelling units would be included, but have no applicability to the Empower program. I don't know if that's been changed yet. And Amendment 3 would allow the flexibility to fund beneficial electrification and other potentially costly programs outside of the Empower surcharge at the discretion of the commission. So it was along the lines of the issues that were raised during the hearing regarding flexibility.
Okay, any other, Sarah Watson, you had some observation about just the broader set of issues here and information? Okay. Okay, guys, here's what I think my gut at this point, you know, this is a big bill, it's an important bill. I heard Senator Hester talk about, you know, some concerns. We will take this bill up first thing tomorrow. Let's hold the bill until tomorrow. We have the amendment has been adopted. If folks have some additional amendments, I don't, you know, feel comfortable jamming something through without everybody feeling they got all the information, you know, that they have or they need. So I think but this will be the first bill we take up tomorrow when we vote. Okay, is that fair?
Yes.
Now,
Thank you.
that said, since we have some additional time, I would like to give, although we don't have a fiscal note on the geothermal network bill, I would like to give Senator Hester an opportunity to maybe broadly talk about what's in the bill, because that's another one that we may take up tomorrow. And so that's the geothermal bill, the Warmth Act, which is on here.
397.
Correct. The House bill, but there's a cross file from Senator Hester. Yeah, well, it's the House bill's in 32 and we don't have the cross file on the Senate voting list, but I think it's an important bill and it's a lot of work's been gone into it. So Senator Hester, maybe just to get some conversation going on this one, I think it'll expedite the conversation when we take it up, hopefully tomorrow.
So this is the bill that establishes that utilities can do pilots on network geothermal. So this is like a group of maybe 42 homes that would be low or moderate income that could be connected with geothermal. And this is an awesome opportunity to electrify because it's doing so in a way where the environmentalists and the unions and everybody kind of agrees that it's a good idea. And we saw some really interesting, data on the cost benefit analysis that says, compared to, sorry.
The Warmth Act, which is actually on the voting list on the House bill. It's the House bill, the Warmth Act, House Bill 397.
So just saying that with the existing kind of federal subsidies for the geothermal equipment and the electrification of the stuff behind the meter, it becomes really cost effective. And so the amendments that have been worked on, I think, really improve the bill. And so now the pilots only go forward if there's a net, benefit to the ratepayers in the given area. There's a few other things that have been worked on in terms of cost recovery and a date modification. And so I thought we were going to be ready to roll today, but we're still waiting for the fiscal note. And so I just wanted to, an opportunity for people to ask, questions. If they have them, we can talk, now or tonight or whatever.
Okay, just any big picture questions for Senator Hester about the bill? And we can take it up again, hopefully tomorrow.
Great bill.
Yeah, and the amendments are in this packet, by the way. So you can look at the amendments and review them before tomorrow's voting session. Okay, well then let's move to the Senate. We left off, we had some holdovers that we held yesterday. I'm not quite sure where we stand on voting list number 33 bills, but let's take a look at them, starting with Senator Augustine on Senate Bill 685. Everybody?
So for me, it's kind of done what I was hopeful for, which is to elevate the conversation and to hear from folks to their concerns. I know they've reached out, particularly the conservation folks, and talked about their concerns with this, even as amended. What I would say to us as a committee, again, this was just for me, it was more about conversation than anything else. It just demonstrates to me some of the challenges that are going to be and are associated with siting of energy generation around our state. I mean, there are clear opportunities as have been identified by the Department of Natural Resources in their portfolio, but folks fight it, and they're going to fight. They fight. This is what happens with everything, everywhere across the state, and so and seemingly everywhere. So it just is, to me, it's just a demonstration of just the challenges. Now, with that being said, if we can, I'm always open to talk to people, not this year, it's the reason why we're talking about it after crossover, you know, about how we might be able to find a way. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that, to see if there are some spaces in there that we can work on over time. But I'm, you know, I appreciate everybody's indulgence to sort of elevate the discussion around this in this part. So I'll leave it at that. I think it's done though.
Okay. Any other commentary? I think that, again, as Senator Augustine mentioned, I think this was a good exercise on an important topic. Senator Washington?
Senator, I appreciate it, and was looking forward to having an opportunity to vote on the bill, frankly. And I think that that's creative. I look forward to us continue. I do think we, in our communities, there are places in our communities, particularly when it comes to storage. And so I look forward to, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, Senator Hester.
I'd like to be part of the work group or whatever. I mean, I think the state owns a lot of land. And as you may recall from the hearing that I did, we ran all the numbers on the state land by county and figured out how many acres there were. And then the next step is for MEA to work with all the agencies and DNR to get that land into the DG Plus tool and then assess, you know, whether or not it's a good fit for battery storage, solar, or anything else. I mean, the state needs to start walking the talk, if you will, about our state lands, and it hasn't happened, you know, yet. So
again, I'm just sharing with you, like, which is a part of what this exercise was, one of the challenges that we are going to face in doing that. And I'm open for it. Let's work on it together for sure, but we just have to go into it with our eyes open. I mean, that's all I'm suggesting, but I'm here for it.
Okay, well then let's, with that, all that said, thank you, Senator Augustine. Yes, Vice Chair Kagan.
I don't have to. I was just going to publicly thank good Senator Augustine for his openness and pragmatism and thoughtfulness about being ready to move into the future and coming back with something even better. So that's props to you. Thank you.
Okay, any other observations, discussions, comments? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go to Senate Bill 713 from Senator Kramer, way we left it. I think the government relations person, you know, his name was invoked yesterday by the vice chair about a letter or some written communication from the unnamed government relations person representing ADT or the state police. Yeah.
I think the outstanding issue was what happens about background checks, and ADT provided testimony suggesting that they run their own background check mechanism, but under current law, before they can actually practice, they have to run the state required background check, which takes around 90 days. So in their testimony, they said they do a separate one, but for non-ADT related companies, or if there is another agency that provides these security system services, they would be able to employ individuals pending the results of that background check.
Okay, we're gonna go to Senator Augustine and then Senator Carozza.
Yeah, I mean, I just have in my notes that I was worried about this. I mean, about the idea of us putting people into people's homes and us not, you know, having completed this process. What if something what if it didn't come up clean or whatever, and folks are in people's homes? I mean, this is security systems. You know, I just can recall my dad telling me this story about, you know, the security system folks who come, and then the next thing you know, they robbed us. You know what I mean? No, I mean, my family back, you know, like they put in the system, and, you know, and then they eventually came back, you know, because they knew what to do, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just, I am a little cautious about the idea of us putting folks in before they, we know that they're cleared and everything else. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay, Senator Cardoza.
Thank you. I just wanted to share with the committee members, and I understand those concerns, but I ran into the House sponsor of this bill and who clarified that there is a background check done that they do, and then that's completed and before they would be employed in these homes, and then the fact that they still do the follow-on state police. So I don't think it was clear when it was first presented that there was that first background check that had to be complete before they could go into your home. And I mean, for those reasons, I'm comfortable supporting it.
I think just as a little bit of clarity, what they were saying via ADT is that there's a separate background check, like just on the open market, that isn't conducted by the state police. And it sounds like what may have been communicated was that latter background requirement outside of what is done at the state level by the state police, which is where the gap lies. Because if there is possibly another organization, they wouldn't be subjected to the state background requirement, even if we assume that they all do the federal one. So that's just what I was trying to articulate to the committee, that the background requirement prior to an individual practicing is contingent on these private companies meeting the federal or implementing the federal background standards, since they would be able to circumvent the state one if we pass it.
Okay, anybody else want to weigh in on this? Yeah, okay, Vice Chair Kagan, then Senator Simon Ayer, and then Senator Gallion.
I just want to clarify for the committee, because the chair mentioned that I invoked a name. The testimony was submitted late, and that's why it wasn't in our system, but it was submitted, I think, the day after. The witness for ADT read her testimony, but it wasn't uploaded, but it was sent to us. We now have it. I forwarded it to council and all that. And I don't know if, Alexis, if you forward it to others, but it does, some of what Senator Cardoza mentioned is included in that. So we do have the information, as well as how much it costs, how long it takes, how thorough their process is and all that. So I don't know if that's information that others might want to see, but that information is now accessible to us if we want it.
Okay, Senator Simon Ayer.
And if I could ask legal counsel of the scope of this, I know we're invoking one name, but it sounds like the scope is open to any company.
Right.
Is there a requirement in this bill that all the companies have to do a background check of their own while they're pending the state police? Or is that just up to individual policy?
I think that's up to individual policy. That's not touched by this one. So we're talking specific requirements to get that registration.
Right. Okay,
within
so
the state.
the bill basically says we can have them start working while they're pending a background check.
Right.
And there potentially is no background check being done on them in advance. Do we do that on any other requirement for background? And if not, what makes this so special that we would exempt them? I mean,
That is a very good question. I'd have to take a check at the code to see which others
cause
we don't need background checks for. That's a great question.
I think as a legislature, we put in background checks because of where they're going or who they're with, and we believe it's important. And to say we're gonna exempt one industry, I need a compelling reason why.
I'm sensing some concern here about the bill. Anybody else want to weigh in? I'm sorry? No, there's no motion by anybody yet. We could do that, or we could just hold it again. It's your call.
Let's hold it.
Didn't receive a second, so we'll go.
Okay. Okay, that bill's going to be held for the second time. Okay, let's go to Senator Alfred, Senator Gallion. Did you come up with a new name for this bill? With the sponsor?
Yes, I believe that Senator Elfer sent that as an amendment.
The new name is on page 6, I believe. It would now be the Maryland Agricultural BMP Priority Environmental Stewardship Program. Yeah.
Did you say that one more time?
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, the Maryland Agricultural BMP Priority Environmental Stewardship Program.
Yes. Yes.
House like it?
This has just been presented here. There is no crossfire of this.
Oh, there's no cross.
Yeah.
Any,
You said there's no crossfire?
well,
Oh,
there was a.
there is, sorry, but I don't think it hasn't come over. to
Right,
us.
but this
Sorry.
title change is not,
Yeah.
yeah, they have, the House hasn't seen this.
I thought we were gonna coordinate with them as well.
Okay, guys, you know what? Yeah, go on, Senator Gallion, you were playing quarterback on this
Yeah,
one.
so
What do you
that's
think?
what the bill sponsor ended up, you know, we were going back, working out. So if that's what she's comfortable with, I think we should roll with it.
Okay, so you want to make a motion?
I'd like to move that amendment.
Okay, is there a second? Second from Senator Carrozza. Okay, we'll do a roll call on this amendment. It's democracy, transparency.
Overnight to come up with good ideas after we've had some imbibing and conversation.
No, but we already had a night to ponder this.
I believe Senator Gallion, you're being added as a co-sponsor as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got who else wants to be on this bill other than Senator Gallion?
Well, once the name
Okay, let's first take up the name change amendment and then we'll see who wants to be on the
I'm
bill.
still not seeing the name change written down.
Is there
Page
a-
6 of the voting package for voting list number 33.
There we go. Thank you. That was in my first one.
Okay, we had a motion and a second on this name change that the sponsor
Okay,
came up
you
with.
said program. It doesn't say program.
It takes out best in show and adds in priority environmental stewardship, but if you look at the bill, the program is already in there. So right now, it's the Maryland Agricultural BMP Best in Show program. This just replaces best in show with the words priority environmental stewardship, and then it's the same for the fund.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're gonna take a roll call on this one.
All right, Senator Kagan,
It's the name change?
This is just on the amendment making the name change, nothing else.
Pass.
Okay,
Senator Kagan passes, Senator Augustine,
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes, Senator Gallion,
Yeah.
Senator Gallion, yes, Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes, Senator Lewis Young,
Yeah.
Senator Lewis Young, yes, Senator Brooks.
Yeah.
Senator Brooks, yes, Senator Carrozza,
Yes.
Senator Carrozza, yes, Senator Hester,
Yes.
Senator Hester, yes, Senator Washington,
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes, Senator Salmonere,
Yes.
Senator Salmonere, yes, Senator Feldman.
yes, amendment carries. So we've got a sponsorship amendment.
Yes.
Who wants to be on the bill beyond Senator Gallion? Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of the sponsor amendment that has Senator Gallion added to the bill, raise your hand. All opposed? He is now added. We now have this piece of legislation, Senate Bill 932 as amended in front of us. Is there a motion on the bill as amended? Senator Gallion, is there a second? From Senator Hester. All in favor of Senate Bill 932 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, that bill carries unanimously. Finally, we're gonna go, and we already passed 956, if you recall, we're now gonna go to, yes,
This has a lot of money attached. I assume that
what?
B&T has already
Which
given
bill?
us their blessing. Sorry, I'm back at the BMT Best in Awesomeness things around agriculture program. Up to
Okay, well,
$3
it's not-
million, up to
Yeah,
$2
it's
million.
most of this money is actually already being transferred. It's not any additional costs. A lot, if you go through the
Okay,
money that could go in, a lot of that money already goes towards the Department of Agriculture. There's no
got it.
extra spending
Okay.
required. because-
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let's go to the final bill for today, Senate Bill 1034 from Senator Carrozza. Forget, how did we leave it?
So,
Yes, oh, I'm sorry, Alexis.
Sure. So, yes, we held this bill yesterday. It was essentially to establish a 911 specialist recruitment and retention work group. There are three actually amendments that are before us. The first conforms the bill to the posture of the House and requires the work groups to review reports submitted by the Commission to advance next generation 911 across Maryland. There's a second included in the packet that is sponsored by Senator Kagan, which adds the requirement that the work group study incentives to include workers' compensation for 911 specialists. And we also ended up adopting the co-sponsor amendment yesterday.
If I could speak to
Alexis, I'm not seeing. the
Um,
amendment.
So I have had a conversation with the bill sponsor, and he would like to be silent on the workers' comp. However, I look back on the bill and believe that we have enough leeway in the bill. If you look on page 3, when you talk about the uniform incentives, offerings, or practices. And then also, if you look down on line 21, any other issues the work group considers relevant, I think that gives us enough leeway to work on those issues. So I want to be consistent with my House sponsor and move forward with without that amendment, but with the other two.
Vice Chair Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 20 of the reprint, it's not underlined or flagged. It literally, with all due respect and affection for our legal counsel, the amendment that we discussed yesterday that I proposed was literally adding 2 words. And it's not a big requirement. I also talked to Delegate Rogers and Delegate Hill, and obviously the good senator. And we don't think it adds anything major. We want them to have the option of, as they talk about, and on page 20, retirement, health benefits, pension programs, workers' comps and compensation and other benefits available to 911 specialists. It's literally wedging 2 words and a comma in there just so that there's the option. And I got an okay back from Delegate Rogers after we had talked.
Can you tell me when his okay was? Because maybe
After you and I, after dinner.
because that's why I just want to make sure we're on the same page, because I wanted, he
We
told
can
me.
hold the bill again if you want.
Well,
We can circle
I'm
back
just,
again.
Okay, guys, I think we're,
It's 2 words.
So we would be sending this over to them. We would be sending my bill over and then amending the
Okay.
House bill.
It's up to you. I'm not going to fight it.
No,
Whatever
well,
you
I'm
want. It's
just,
2 words. There's time and it's important. But if you don't want to, it's your bill.
okay, here, let's pull this bill to, come on. We got to get some clarity. I don't want to, have confusion between the Vice Chair, Senator Carrozza, legal counsel. We gotta have clarity on all these issues. Okay, guys, I think that's it for today. So tomorrow, we're gonna have more voting. And so just kind of heads up, there's, some of these bills are big and they're not that simple, but do your homework, and I think we're doing good work. Okay. Okay. We'll see you at 6 o'clock or 6:30. Okay. Bye-bye. 6 o'clock at the Ram's Head. Okay. Yes. By Senator Lewis Young. Yeah, so the governor, we had a hearing early in session when Governor Moore came in, his affordable housing bill. So we've been waiting for the House to take the lead. That bill is on 2nd or 3rd reader right now. So we will be getting the governor's bill, but there has been a lot of amendments. It's changed. And so the governor's folks are going to come in here and brief us about what we will be expecting early next week. So kind of like we've done on a lot of stuff, we can get that kind of briefing, get questions out, concerns. I think it'll simplify it when we actually take the bill up next week when it's in our possession. But right now it's not in our possession. So that's what that is. Okay. And it's specifically it's Brad Fallon and those guys, and I think Safe will be here as well. Okay. Okay. The meeting is hereby adjourned.